Hello, we are Geeks Assemble, and today we are discussing a movie based on the works of Hunter S. Thompson, directed by Terry Gilliam, starring Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. And this movie, well, it flopped at the cinema, to be honest. In 1998, it really did flop, but as time has gone by, it has gained cult status, cult following, like most flops do. So we are talking Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. There you are. Ethan's got it there. It's something what this movie just plainly putting it plainly, message with your head. Big style all the way through. So let's see what Ethan has to say about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Well, like you said, it's one of those types of movies where it is a Marmite type of movie. You're either going to hate it, you're either going to love it, or you might think, "What the hell did I just watch?" Um, for me, this is literally one of my. I do find this movie such a masterpiece. It's it's a very deranged but intelligent, funny movie. And I do think sometimes you need a sort of a certain state of mind, like either watch this high or drunk, or if you're just deranged and intelligent. Um, yes, this is based on a book called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the a savage journey to the heart of the American dream, which essentially that's what this story is about. It's based on a somewhat true story about Hunter S. Thompson and his friend Oscar. Now, in the movie, they're known as Raoul Duke, and Gonzo. Oscar is Gonzo, Hunter S. Thompson is Duke. Uh, but that's the names they used in their stories. Now, Hunter S. Thompson was a famous journalist, American journalist, and he was not your typical American. He fought differently compared to most Americans. He was very much an outcast, misfit, oddball, and an absolute maniac. He was crazy, but he was fun. From what the story said, he was always fun. Um, he invented something called Gonzo journalism, which was around about the 1970s, where same time he went to the bike race that's featured in the movie, uh, where it's basically a reporter would be part of the story. So he's while doing a report or a journalist story, they make it a full-on story with a first-person narrative. Uh, that's what his journalism was, Gonzo journalism, and it draws its power from a combination of social critique, self-satire, but there's a lot of sarcasm, humor, and typical Hunter S. Thompson, lots of exaggeration and profanity. So a lot of it, you're not quite sure what was real or what was in his head, because he was always known for taking drugs, lots of drink and drugs, and he loved his guns and explosions and all this stuff. Now, in many ways, they did a film before this called Where the Buffalo Roam with Bill Murray in the role of Hunter S. Thompson and Peter Boyle as his mate, Gonzo. And no matter what story it is, Hunter's sort of like even though he was mad, he was sort of like the cool, calm one of the two. Whereas his mate, Oscar or Gonzo, was always the loose cannon of the two. He was like the more psychotic and deranged and dangerous one. Now, the story was they went in real life, they went to Las Vegas, and that's what this is based on. And basically, the story is this one man a lot of people would watch this and think, oh, it's just a sort of a road trip to Las Vegas where there's lots of drink and drugs involved. But And it is a lot with really comedic results, some of it, and some terrifying results. But that's what I love about this movie. I love how deranged it can be. I love how ugly it can get. I love how weirdly beautiful it can be, how funny it is, how some bits are quite emotional and sad. Like nostalgia in one certain scene. And it's this guy who grew up in had a great life in the 1960s and stuff, and this blast during the flower power hippie movement, you know, made a piece. A lot of the movement he did was in San Francisco. And now he's entering the 1970s where Nixon is in power. The flower power movement is no longer there. So it's sort of like this age that he knew is now fading. And so this entering the 70s, he's asked to go to this bike race in Las Vegas, but he's trying to find the American dream. And as the myths always say, they always say it seems to center around Las Vegas, you know, where you get all your desires and all your fantasies and become rich within one night. But as the story goes, what he discovers, how he sees the world through drugs and narcotics and like seeing things in his deranged mind, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's basically all that glitters ain't gold story, where he gets there and the American dream is dead, or it just never existed in the first place. It's all just a big myth. And I find this film a really good masterpiece, because there's a lot of films in the 90s where that are big masterpieces as well. We had a lot of films in the 90s, and some films that a lot of people say were masterpieces. Like, for example, I know a lot of people said, like, Pulp Fiction. For me, I was more into this one. This was the standout movie of the 90s for me. I mean, there was like Batman Returns and all this stuff that came out, but this was a real standout movie for me because and I think one of the things it didn't do quite well is people don't like the truth. And that's what this film kind of does. Hunter S. Thompson knew more about America, that it's not really, it's full of hypocrites. It's full of people with twisted fantasies and fetishes and desires and personalities and stuff. And he sort of saw that through his drugs, be it like he goes to there's a lot of great humor in this, where, for example, he'll go to a lounge bar. When they get to Las Vegas, there's a lounge bar, and he's taken acid, too much acid. So he's literally in this lounge where there's all these, there's that phrase, lounge lizard. And what do they turn into? Lounge lizards. That are literally giant talking lizards and dinosaurs and stuff. And he sort of sees the world for what it is in many ways throughout the movie. There's lots of little hints and things, and where he's seeing what they really are. In his mind, he's seeing their souls, that they are just messed up. And it is one of those films that starts off somewhat normality, but as the film gets on, it gets more and more deranged, and it questions what's real and what's through the drugs and stuff. And it does depict the 70s brilliantly, like that whole world of the early 70s. I think it's 1971. It's depicted. Awesome soundtrack. In my opinion, one of the best movie soundtracks ever. And it does depict the dangers of drugs and hallucinogenics, where as the movie progresses, the story becomes more linear. So you're not quite sure where certain bits fit. Like one bit, he'll try and think, when did that happen? How many days have passed? And he's trying to piece together in this weird sort of way, which only Terry Gilliam could create. And if you've seen his movies, they are weird and wonderful and just deranged. And only Terry Gilliam could portray a movie like this, where it's so out there. And it depicts that world where, like, Hunter S. Thompson's mind, or Raoul's mind, where, for example, he'll wake up after the drugs and you're not sure, is this just his state of mind, where he's like got some lizard tail sticking to him or a cone on his head or something, and the whole place is flooded with little items from his past and his adventures floating in the water and stuff. And he's just typing away, trying to remember everything with this recorder in a way that has his memories. It is a weird film where you probably have to watch it a few times to get some of the jokes and some of the references and stuff. And there is some really clever jokes in it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when they're getting ready to go to Las Vegas, there's one bit where they're getting all the stuff ready. And he's telling the story from his point of view. Raoul is the main part. And he's in this car. They're in his car, him and Gonzo. And he says, we were late getting to this shop, but the guy said he'll keep it open. We got stuck in the traffic because a stingray just randomly killed a pedestrian. Now, what makes this joke really great is the car itself is a stingray type.
Yeah.
But because of the way he is and the way he tells it, you're thinking, did he actually see like a flying stingray from the sea come and randomly kill a pedestrian? You're like, so that's what the joke is. You're wondering, is he seeing a car? Is he seeing the actual aquatic creature
Who
coming
knows?
in and kill a pedestrian? But yeah, so as I said, they go to do this race, to review this race, and there's lots of cameos in this movie. Like, I mean, hundreds of actors and actresses in this, from like Gary Busey as the highwayman, Ellen Barkin, who plays the waitress at the end, Christina Ricci as Lucy, Cameron Diaz as that blonde reporter.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Vern Troy, who plays the little waiter.
The fleeting cameo. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all these little cameos. Christopher Maloney, who plays the sort of the gay receptionist. And there's so many actors in this. Who else was there? He was a judge in it. Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
Loads of actors in this. I mean, big actors. Oh, and what's his name from Law and Order? He randomly talks to him. Duke talks to him at the bike race in the bar. He's got like
yeah. Oh, what's his name? I know you mean from is it CSI?
Yeah, CSI.
Yeah, I know you mean. His name's escaped me. It'll come to me.
And of course, one bit where Hunter S. Thompson has a flashback of his past. He has, while on drugs, he sees, I guess, what is a future version of himself, played by Hunter S. Thompson, when he says, "There I was. Holy shit, there I am." And it's literally the real Hunter S. Thompson. And it basically is just, like I said, just this story of a man wanting to find the American dream. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. While at the same time, he's trying to get used to this new age of this, which is the 70s, and he's missing the friends he had. As there's one bit in the movie, which I'll mention favorite moments later, one bit where he is saying about how he was part of the movement of flower power and peace, make love, not war movement in the 60s. And he had all those friends that he was dancing with and having drugs with and drinking and having a blast with. And now he's doing this journalism and they've all gone off. So he's basically stuck in nostalgism a bit as well, trying to get used to the fact that things are changing. And in a way, that's what it's like I said, it can be really deranged and crazy and scary and then absolutely hilarious and really quite sad. And eventually, as it goes on, he realizes there's no point in this. And there's lots of metaphors in this and stuff. And again, I'll get to favorite moments later to try and point some of these out. And I think it's one of those films you watch again and again, you'll notice in the background something new. You'll notice something new all the time. Like you think, is that there, or is that actually just part of his mind and stuff like that? Like taking the drugs and stuff. But it's just, and then eventually things get wacky when they're like taking the drugs. And you get it from their point of view, the panic. Like whenever someone else takes drugs, they panic or get paranoid. Like when they're in the police station, the police conference, which is absolutely hilarious, trying to keep their cool. They're sitting, watching in this audience, taking the drugs. And I think they drop something at one point. They go, But it's it's one of those films, I think, where, and it, like I said, it depicts the ugly truth about America, which, as it says, nobody likes the truth. And it's sort of, while making satire of that, reality of the world we live in, while satirizing it, it also points out the truth to like who we all are and stuff like that. I suppose, be it here or be it in America, really, but it is mostly the American world, what it's really like, that it's not all it's cracked up to be. And it's sort of like either made us desire to stay up all night till about 4:30 in the morning, trying to waste our money getting all this stuff, or getting our desires and dreams, but it just doesn't happen. And he sort of laughs at it and mocks it, really.
Yeah, I agree with you on that part. Yeah, it's not just the American dream, is it? It's anybody. It could be the British dream, or
Yeah,
the dream, whatever. It doesn't exist.
There's people make it like the government, or you hear, like you said, you'll hear of a country or a city, place, and they say this great dream and stuff like that, and anywhere's done it. They've done it for thousands of years. And so then you find it out like, well, it doesn't really exist. The world's pretty shit at times, which it can be. But I suppose in a way, by the end, there's certain deleted scenes that are taken out and scenes in a book where eventually it gets to the point, the moral is, it's what you make of it. And, he gets to the point where he does say, you know what, it's still good out there. I can still have a good time and stuff. It may not be the best, but, I'm still going to push on and just make sure whatever I find out there is great, which is, of course, when he leaves Las Vegas, that's what he's thinking in his mind. A man on the move and just sick enough to be totally confident.
All right, then. So you've talked in depth about the movie. Any favorite things you wouldn't like, what you didn't like in it, or things what you wholeheartedly was behind? Because for me personally, I'm surprised they got away with a lot of the stuff what's in this movie.
Yeah,
especially the drug taking, especially the conversation he had about Lucy, the artist.
Yeah.
That was a bit risque.
Yeah.
But over to you. What's favourite things or things you wasn't keen on?
To be honest, I'm in the majority where there's nothing about this movie I didn't enjoy. Throughout this whole movie, it's one of those films I gladly watch again and again. It's for me, I love it. I think because I can sort of relate to some of it, like Hunter S. Thompson having one foot in reality, one foot in madness and fantasy.
I can vouch for that.
Oh, you are. I think 1,000 of us can vouch for that. I think as well, what I like about there's certain scenes. I'm going to point these out first. I love. There's a fun fact actually, where there's one bit in the movie. Hunter S. Thompson loved the film. He thought he depicted it quite well, and Terry Gilliam did a good job. But one bit he actually wasn't too big on was a bit at the start where where he's getting the job, getting called, and there's the dwarf giving him the phone, and the dwarf asks for a tip, and he just grabs the money and throws it on the ground, just like, I don't give a shit, and the poor dwarf picks up. He didn't like that bit because he actually said, I wouldn't do that. That's not how I treat people. And the thing is, he's right, because they did it. He understood they did it for comedy effect, just like this wacky guy just throwing a change. But he said, that's the one bit I wouldn't do. The rest of it is, he always stood up for people. He always fought better than a lot of Americans do. And he would stand up for people. For example, I loved, like at the end, you could see how he's realizing things have gone too, whether at the cafe, and there's Ellen Barkin as the waitress. And of course, his mate, Gonzo, who's the loose cannon, who's really the more psychotic one, scares her with the knife and all that. And he realizes things are going too far with the drugs. They've reached it. But he wouldn't do that. And he feels sorry for her. Like he looks at her and you could tell he feels sorry for her and he thinks this is getting out of hand. And even like with the gay receptionist, where he's been picked on by this sort of angry, typical American cop, and the receptionist is trying to sort his room out. But as Duke says, he's like, oh, he's saying all this, but I can actually see and hear what he's really saying. And I love this bit where he actually shouts out like, listen, you, da, 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 da. So of course it's not really happening, but he's seen it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I love it where everybody's normal, but you see Duke at the back, and he sort of reacts a bit like the gay guy shouting at this cop, and he's how he reacts because he's the only one seeing this. He's like, oh, well done, you. But he feels sorry for him because that's why he jumps in front of this cop, pushing this cop out the way. He doesn't give a shit. And he's sort of like thinking, I'm going to bring this conversation up to help him out. And that's why he's like being calm and relaxed and stuff. And even in a book, in the book, it explains more that he feels sorry for him. He doesn't like people being picked on. And so that's why he does it. He jumps in to look, help him out and sort of stick up for him a little bit and stuff. Even though he doesn't explicitly say it, he's doing it to sort of say, look, you know, I don't want to get involved and stuff like that. I know you're doing your best and stuff. So he was always a good guy and stuff. And I think that one of my favorite moments is, like I said, is where he's in the hotel room and Gonzo's out for the count after a fucking bout in the bathroom trying to electrocute himself with White Rabbit. Well, White Rabbit playing on the radio, as you do when you're on drugs. But and he's writing the story, and he does the whole speech of the wave of San Francisco, where he does explain about the movement and stuff, and that's how you sort of get how he misses that life. And it's something we've all relate to, like nostalgism, and how there's certain moments in our life we look back on where it was like the highlight of our life or something like that, or a big moment in our life where you sort of miss it and you look back on it. It was a big influence because that was a big influence for Hunter. And I like that bit because it's quite an emotional scene. How he misses all his friends. He misses, and they've all gone off to do whatever or something. And of course, he's kind of alone, really. I like that bit. It's an emotional, sad moment. And like I said, you've got perfect songs playing there in the background. And then, of course, it kicks off like how it starts off really emotional. And then it cuts to him having a Z on his head with a gun and finding out the bill's gone high and stuff, trying to escape the hotel without having to pay for anything. And like I mentioned about the lounge bit when they get to Las Vegas, when he sees all the people, and it's these little moments where a lot of them do look weird. A lot of the background people actually do look quite weird, even though they're dressed and sort of matches the times. They actually do look a bit weird, but that's because he sort of sees it. And he's looking at certain people, like there was 3 people who are laughing and going, ha ha, having a great time. Or this one bit, like where he sees the other way, and there's this sort of like, sort of this blonde woman, or like, you know, almost quite tarty looking woman, really. And there's a guy that's with her who looks slouchy and grim and dirty and stuff. And he's just like, ooh, almost like he can't pull this woman or something. It's these little things where he's thinking, you know, like these weird people and like who they are and like what they're trying to get. So you sort of get what they want and stuff like that, or their desires and what kind of people they are. And then of course he'll see them as lizards, which is their souls. To him, it's what he's seeing, who they really are deep down. He included a bit where he goes down to the casino after another bout with Gonzo with the knife. And he says to him like, oh, I'm just going to leave you. I'll be back in a while. And I think he says something like, you could turn your back on a person, but never, ever turn your back on a druggie with a knife.
Yeah, that's true.
So he goes downstairs, and again, it's what he's seeing, like, again, similar to the lounge, where he's saying, who are all these people? Like, what are their stories? Who are they? And I love the way he says, they look like used caricatures of American car dealers dealing secondhand cars and stuff like that. And if you've seen what they look like in America, they actually do look like secondhand car dealers. And he's just looking at him thinking like, God, it looks boring. It's not colourful or anything. They're all just up at 4:30 in the morning, still trying to win all this money and stuff. They're like robots trying to get like, oh, I want the dream, I want the money and stuff like that. And he's walking by them just thinking, what is going on here? What else? Oh, I forgot to mention another cameo was Toby Mcguire, a very young Toby Mcguire.
The Hitchhiker.
The Hitchhiker, which is a very iconic moment.
He didn't have much to say in it.
Yeah, not much to say in it. That's just a very funny bit. I love the comedy between Gonzo and Duke. And like I said, there's moments where they are just so funny. Mm-hmm. Like when he takes the drugs or something, and he's after he sees the lizards, and he's like, "Are you ready?" No, they'll be over here. Falls onto the ground. Get out of his wits after seeing these reptiles. Or like when they meet up with that reporter, and what he's bloody seen is some deranged soldier in Vietnam or something. There are trying to think because there are that many moments.
But it's one of these movies, isn't it? That if the more and more you watch it, there's things you see.
There's hundreds of things you see
in the background, and things as well. What Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro do. Mm-hmm. But if any more moments, or do you want to go on to final say and score?
I'll probably, to be honest, the entire film I could say all day, but it's just a great movie all around, and there's so many things, and it's not for everybody, but
no,
it's not.
As I said to Ethan before we recorded, it's if I was given the choice of going to the cinema to watch this, I would have refused, to be honest, because it's not a sort of movie I'd sit in the theatre and watch. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the luxury at home, sitting in front of your TV and watching it, it's fine. But I just don't think I could have sat through this at the cinema.
Yeah.
It can be hard going sometimes.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, there's so many good moments and stuff like that. So I'll probably give it a score. There is actually one bit I liked at the end. But unfortunately, they cut the last speech out.
Oh.
You get half of it at the end, and I'm just about to pull it up, actually. The full thing that he says in the book. And they cut half of it out. And it sort of defines the ending and, like, how he's feeling. And I'm just trying to find it. Here we go. I do love the full speech of it, where he's saying, like, stand strong, you know, there's good things out there. It's what you make of it. And the whole thing goes like this. There was only one road back to LA. US Interstate 15. Just a flat-out high-speed burn through Baker and Barstow and Badoo. Then onto a Hollywood freeway, straight into frantic oblivion. Safety. Obscurity. Just another freak in the freak kingdom. We'd gone in search of the American dream. It had been a lame fuck around. A waste of time. There was no point in looking back. Fuck no, not today, thank you kindly. My heart was filled with joy. I felt like a monster reincarnation of Horatio Alger. Man on the move. Just sick enough to be totally confident. So, I do like that speech. I do like that speech. So, for this movie, I do give it a 10 out of 10. It is one of my favorite movies. And I just love how ugly and weirdly wonderful, fun, scary, and just bonkers it can be, and how deep it can be. So I give it a 10. I don't know what I could say from this movie, but like they go through amount of cars as well. I love how each car gets destroyed as the movie progresses. These lovely cars, they just get absolutely annihilated. But I give it 10 out of 10 bats.
Oh, yes, the bats, yes. Well, thanks, Ethan, for that little insight into the world of this movie. We'll move over to Susan for her thoughts. So over to Susan.
Oh my gosh. Ralph Steadman artwork. This must be Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is one of these books that I had when I was a tripping chickie. And this was so good. This book is so rich. Oh, it's got the quotes of the quotes. The one about being in the depths of an ether binge is brilliant. And the one about the lounge lizards is fantastic. Okay, so I guess we're not really talking about the book, but oh my gosh, what a great piece of literature. Hunter S. Thompson he just nails it. It's so good. It's amazing. So this one's about the movie starring Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro and a bunch of other people that are super famous. Wow. It's just got a cast of, great ones. It's, let me see. Hang on. I'm going to pull this up here. Okay, we've got, let's start from the end. We got Ellen Barkin. Mm-hmm. And Ellen Barkin plays the lady at the cafe.
Yeah, she's behind the counter, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she's Dr. Gonzo, or the lawyer. He is really forward with her, and she has none of that. And Ellen Barkin just nails that. It's amazing. And then we got Harry Dean Stanton as the judge, and so let's go back to the beginning, okay? Because this is just a really big trip, and these two are hired. Raoul Duke and Dr. Gonzo are hired to cover a motorcycle rally in Vegas, and so they take a suitcase full of drugs and a trunk full of booze.
As you do.
As you do. A whole suitcase full of drugs. They have anything. I mean, they have tons of blotter acid. They have ether. They have bennies. They have uppers. They have, oh my God, they have so many drugs. They have ether. They have lots of ether. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get the great quote about the depths of an ether binge. They actually go into they repeat these things perfectly. It's great. Right out of the book, directly. It's like it explodes out, and then there's the bats, and the bats are in the book, and then they get to Las Vegas, and then because the acid is kicking in, they're suddenly surrounded by lounge lizards, and lounge lizards is a thing. It's a thing. It's a really big thing. Anyway, wow, it's so good. And the way that the scenery melts, they meet up with Toby Mcguire. He's a hitchhiker, and they pick him up and they put him in the back of the car, and they start to drive, and he's just he's just along for the ride, but then he's realizes that these two are out of their gourd. So he jumps out of the car and runs off back down the highway. And so they take off and they proceed in. And first person they run into is Catherine Hellman, right out of the pages of Brazil, right off the screen of Brazil. She's fantastic. And her face is melting, and she's oh my gosh, she's just transforming right in front of his eyes, and she's just a desk clerk, and they have the best cast, and the cast plays just normal people. Oh my gosh!
But they're not in it. They're not in it for long. It's just a fleeting fleeting visit in the movie, and then they're gone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It really is. Michael Warwick plays the bellboy, who's, yeah, he's super amazing too. And then Mark Harmon plays another reporter, and
That's it. Ethan couldn't remember his name when he was talking about it earlier.
oh yeah, I'm sorry.
He said, "Oh, that guy from CSI or whatever it was."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And CIS, yeah.
that's the one.
And then there's Richard Rayleigh or Ryle or whatever, however you pronounce his last name, who just plays the driver of the Doom buggy. So at the motorcycle thing that they're it's just salt, like salt and sand, and it just it goes from being blue sky to just being completely engulfed in dust and sand and stuff and salt, and it's just crazy. And so they take off, driving the convertible off into the desert, looking for these motorcycles, because you can't see them because of all the. Anyway, it's crazy. And then they are. And when they're out there, they run into this Doom buggy with a bunch of, pistol packing, gun, people going to shoot people. And well, ostensibly they were there to hunt because there's a deer on the front, but whatever. You just know that this is just some sort of, bang up group, and then you're back in the hotel, and there's Lorraine Newman, who looks like a frog.
I'm glad I never took drugs in my younger days.
Oh. And then later on that night, they get cleaned up. They pour the silt out of the beer mugs. I mean, why you wouldn't have like a
tankard with a lid on it?
Tankard with a lid on it. Exactly. Anyway, yeah. So they get cleaned up. They go into the hotel, and you can see that the hotel is starting to pull at them a little bit. They start to deconstruct the hotel room. It's not really demolition at this point, but it is more deconstruction. It's like artistic in nature. And they're ordering food, and then they go out down the strip, and they park on the pavement at this wonderful casino. I think it's the Mirage of the Sands or something. And they go to see Debbie Reynolds. They're like, Debbie Reynolds, that would be a fun show to see. And Raoul Duke is trying to convince his the host to let him in to see him. To let him in to see her. He's like, oh my gosh, we're part of her team. We know her from Los Angeles. We're here to visit her. We were sent here by her people. Da 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 da. He tries to talk his way in, and he ends up talking his way in. And these two sit along the back wall, and they are laughing their face off. It's just such a good story. My gosh. They get ejected from the theater, and they're like, yeah, well, I've never seen so many corpses. Anyway, that was hilarious. And then they go to like what what's called the Bazooka, but it's actually Circus Circus, because Circus Circus is like the other big casino in Las Vegas. Anyway, they go to Circus Circus and they trip out there. It makes it very hard when you have to get on and off amusement park rides while you're high as hell. Anyway, then they meet Vern Troyer and Ken Gillette and Christopher Cullen and Cameron Diaz. They go back to the hotel and they meet Cameron Diaz in the elevator. And Dr. Gonzo pulls a knife on her, and she is, she's perfect. Anyway, it's just so funny. And then they end up meeting Flea. He's a band member in the thing, and then oh my God. Raoul Duke, Dr. Gonzo gets deconstruction of the hotel room is still going on. Mm-hmm. Still ordering about a meal an hour from room service. And they put Dr. Gonzo on a plane out of Vegas back to LA, and Raoul Duke takes off in his car. And then he runs into Gary Busey, who just wants a kiss.
Gets very lonely out there.
It's very lonely out there, and he just wants a kiss. Anyway, so
he felt violated after that.
And then they run into Lucy, and Lucy, oh my God, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Anyway, so much reefer, so many drugs continue, drugs and drugs and drugs and drugs. It's like they don't have, there's no downtime. Anyway.
Well, as I said to Ethan, there's a lot of stuff in this what I don't think they'd get away with these days, especially the everything about drugs in this, telling you what this drug does, what that drug does.
Not telling you, but showing.
And then showing you, yeah. And also, as you said, the cast is just amazing. You blink and you'll just miss all the cameos. Even you had the cameo of the writer as well. He was in there.
Oh, I know. Hunter Ross is in there. He plays the other Raoul Duke shooting at each other.
But it's got to go down to the performances of Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. I mean, Johnny Depp shaved his head for the part. Benicio del Toro put on loads of weight for this. I mean, he's walking up the hotel rooms in his underpants, and his stomach is just out here. It's just an amazing movie. Terry Gilliam again, of course. It is an amazing movie, but as I said to Ethan earlier, it is hard going. I would never, as I said, I've never have gone to the cinema theatres to see this. I could not sit through at the theatres watching this. I felt okay watching it on the TV screen, but there's no way I could have sat through in the theatre watching this. And a lot of people, I think, felt the same because it did say bomb at the box office. There wasn't many people in the theater when I saw it. Yeah.
there was 10 people in the theater on opening night.
Jeez. I mean, but now, what is it? Well, this was what, 1998. We're into 2021 now. It has got a cult following, cult status now. Like nearly every movie gets these days. But,
And the next year I got sober, so that's the way the pickle wrinkles.
I mean, for me, the scene with was it Dr. Gonzo? Is it?
Yeah.
Where he's in the bath, high on drugs. He wants him to throw the is it the cassette player or whatever it is into the bath when Jefferson Airplane gets a high note on the song. Well, what's the song? Was it White Rabbit or Somebody to Love? White Rabbit. What? You're going to kill yourself? I mean, nowadays people would take offence at that, and it would be edited out.
And instead of doing the throwing in the cassette player, which if they would have done that, that would have been hilarious, because he wouldn't have. I mean, if it didn't kill him, it would have, it would sobered him immediately or something. Anyway, the fact that he took a grapefruit and he threw it at him. I mean, it wasn't just, trippy for no sake. It was funny.
Yeah, it was. It was funny, but as I say, these days people take offence too easily. Me, nothing really offends me, but this sort of movie nowadays would go through a lot of editing, and it wouldn't be this. It just wouldn't be the same. But yeah, I enjoyed what. I mean, I hadn't seen this for a hell of a lot of years, and to sit down and watch this, I mean, it flew by. I mean, it's what is it? It's nearly 2 hours long, the movie. So a drug fueled 2 hours with the people turning into lounge lizards, with the hysteria of just being high on drugs, and with the bats, and it was and it was just an amazing. I mean, the imagery. I mean, and that's down to the writing, but it's down to Terry Gilliam. The imagery coming on the screen is down to Terry Gilliam, which I love Terry Gilliam. But yes, as I say, the two main actors as well. They put their heart and soul into this movie, and I don't think it won any awards or anything like that, to be honest. But so, anything else you want to say about this?
Well, I just want everyone to see it. The fun is a bit like Train Spotting to me.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of drug-fueled frenzy.
Well, this is it. I mean,
24-Hour Party People is also another one that's like sort of that, and Winterbottom and Gilliam just know this. They know it big. They know how to do these things on screen. They know how to melt your mind. They know how to play with your reality. I don't know why you'd ever expect anything to be normal in a movie with them.
I mean, the scene with Flea in the public toilet. In the public toilet, where he's sniffing coke off his sleeve or whatever it was, and where he's Benicio del Toro is just feeding Johnny Depp. I can't remember what drug it was. Where he was on the bed and he had his little towel on his head and he was just.
That was what's the stuff? Adrenochrome.
That was it.
Yeah. Okay, and this. Okay, let me tell you how relevant that is to today.
Yeah.
There is a conspiracy group who like just attacked the White House, or attacked the Capitol. They're part of that Q group, and they have lost their ever loving minds. They all think that every Democrat is about harvesting adrenochrome. But we know, I mean, this wonderful duo of insane people have shown you what that is and how you cannot believe that about people.
Yeah.
Well, Q snatch, you guys just cannot believe that about this world. You cannot believe these things. I mean, it takes a bonkers person to do adrenochrome, and these people who are walking around are not that crazy. Okay, so okay, that's all for me. Preaching to the Q. I cannot say enough. It's funny that this Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas actually collided with the whole attack on the Capitol this year. It's dude, strange things happen in war times. I don't know.
Yeah, but it was just those scenes and the way they were shot and everything. It's just so well done. It's just a shame this doesn't get many, people saying this is an awesome movie. It is an awesome movie, but a lot of people don't know about it. And this is why I like doing movies like this when we do, our movie reviews. It's to get, let's, get these movies out there and say, just say, look, watch these movies. So, have you got anything else to say, or shall we just go on to final say and score?
I'd like to say that the artists from Montana often end up in trippy situations.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, because I didn't actually meet Lee when I lived in Montana, but this thing happened. Anyway, so just so much good stuff in this, and how close they followed the book. How Terry Gilliam following the book. I mean, there's nobody else who could have followed the book.
Yeah, but you see, we mentioned, Ethan mentioned the movie before that, Where the Buffaloes Roam. That was sort of the works of the author as well, but he wasn't too happy with that movie, the outcome of that movie. But he loved this movie, apparently, apart from one item what Ethan mentioned. But he was more happy with this movie than he was with the early 80s. I think it was early 80s, wasn't it? Yeah. But we may get round to doing Where the Buffaloes Roam at one point, but at the moment,
that was based on other books. This is just that one book.
Yeah, it was an amalgamation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
that one book.
Yeah, he was more happy with this movie than he was with that one. So what's your final say and score then, Susan?
I'll give this 10 sheets of bladder acid out of 10.
Oh dear. But yeah, what shall I give this? I'm going to give this an 8.75 lounge lizards out of 10. It's not a 10 for me, but it's still an enjoyable movie, and it will mess with your mind. And remember, kids, don't do drugs. Well, that's up to you anyway, but that's what I'm saying. So I'd like to thank Susan for discussing Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You guys out there, please. Oh, there you are. Please leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought of the movie. If you want to join us, We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, YouTube. You know, we're all over the place. Leave us a message. Talking to YouTube, if you want to be notified, you know, that we put a new video up, remember to press the bell button and you'll get notified with a little ding every time we put one up. Usually 2 to 3 times a week when I remember to do all the technical stuff. So until next time, remember, beware of those damn bats.